Pay attention. Jasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Adi Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Simad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text number 10. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. So 1, 2, 10. Chamasya Nindriya Pritir Labho Jiveta Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Narto Yascheha Karma Bihi Kamasya Nindriya Pritir Labho Jiveta Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Narto Yascheha Karma Bihi. Translation: Life's desire should never be directed toward sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be one's goal, should be the goal of one's works. Purport. The completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards the fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. In politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion, or even in salvation, the very same tint of sense gratification is ever increasingly prominent. In the political field, the leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. The voters adore the so-called leaders only when they promise sense gratification. As soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own sense satisfaction, they dethrone the leaders. The leaders must always disappoint the voters by not satisfying their senses. The same is applicable in all other fields, semicolon. No one is serious about the problems of life. Even those who are on the path of salvation desire to become one with the absolute truth and desire to commit spiritual suicide for sense gratification. But the Bhagavatam says that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation and not for sense gratification. Because the body is made of senses, which also require a certain amount of satisfaction, there are regulative directions for satisfaction of such senses. But the senses are not meant for unrestricted satisfaction or unrestricted enjoyment. For example, marriage or the combination of a man with a woman is necessary for progeny, but it is not meant for sense enjoyment. In the absence of voluntary restraint, there is propaganda for family planning. But foolish men do not know that family planning is automatically executed as soon as there is search after the absolute truth. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessary engagements in sense gratification because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the capital T truth. In every sphere of life, therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth. And that sort of engagement will make one happy because he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what that absolute truth is explained as follows. Stay tuned for tomorrow's verse. This very important section of the Bhagavatam. First, let us offer obeisances to Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatadine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The structure of these first 3 chapters of Bhagavad Gita goes as follows. The scene is set. The sages have assembled in Naimisharanya, knowing Krishna has departed, knowing after Krishna's departure, the next age of Kali will begin, and anticipating the deterioration effects of the age of Kali, they have an antidote. They do at least what they understand. That is, they perform sacrifice. Karma kanda sacrifice means that Vishnu is at the center, but there's different devas and devis who are also invoked by mantra, and their intention, 1,000-year sacrifice means after one is complete, the next one begins immediately, and so forth for 1,000 years. So by that 1,000-year performance of sacrifice, the intention is to increase auspiciousness and decrease the inauspiciousness of this age of Kali. So they're beginning, they're in Naimisharanya, and in their midst comes Sutta. And Sutta has just previously successfully heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev to Maharaj Parikshit. And so the sages, recognizing his gift of speaking and topics that he's heard, they ask 6 questions. They give him a special seat and they raise 6 questions. And this is the first of those 6 questions, response to. So the first of the 6 is, please summarize the essence of the entire Vedas. Thank you very much. So that's what they're doing. And the essence is bhakti. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha. And the purpose behind is, there's several verses where do like this, don't do like that, repeating so that it's super clear. And this is one of those verses. Now, what is the absolute truth that one should hear, chant, and always remember? That's the next verse. But there's a preliminary qualification, and that is to, you set your compass. What's the purpose? While doing this activity of hearing about the absolute truth, what should be the purpose? What shouldn't be the purpose? Because there's paradharma and there's apara. Paradharma is for one purpose. Krishna is to be satisfied. And the other is anything else, or a mixture of Krishna and me. Krishna, Krishna, me, Krishna, Krishna. And that's the mantra, or that's the mix. And largely, on the one hand and on the other hand, religions of the world, God is there, and religions of the world, I'm there. And the purpose of my religion is to increase me. I mean, acknowledge God, say thank you very much, and then enjoy, because that's what God wants, right? He wants us to enjoy. And so enjoy lavishly, or nicely, or so. But the mixture of centeredness is the program. And so that's the benefit that one hopes to achieve by religion. So, there's different teachings. The Vedas, in one sense, it's also religion. In one sense, it's also religion. But when in that one sense of, or that sense of religion, it's not only the personality of Godhead that's at the target or the center. It's me. And then different devas are there to propitiate this deva, that one, the other one, in order to get this desire, the other desire, the next desire fulfilled. And oh, by the way, Vishnu is in the process, but he's not understood as being the Supreme who empowers the devas to do what the devas do. He's considered differently. He's not, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He's not seen as the Bhokta of the yajna, the enjoyer of the sacrifice. They're the enjoyer. And the demigods, very kindly being propitiated, they receive and they give. It's a nice business. And so to take it away from business, there's multiple verses, this being one of them, that says, what should the purpose not be? What should the purpose be? There's emphasis in this section about knowledge. So we had this little discussion yesterday, sub-discussion. What's the purpose of knowledge? And supposing one doesn't know the purpose of knowledge, but one cultivates knowledge. Shama evahi kevalam, it's useless. Useless in the sense that the purpose of the Vedas, the purpose of Dharma is not fulfilled, therefore useless. And on the temporary side, it's some benefit, but then it's not eternal benefit if it's devoid of God consciousness. In other words, there can be fulfillment of a desire, of diminishing suffering, increase enjoyments, and go to that nice place, the heavenly realm, and enjoy long time. And when the pious merits are depleted, your bank account runs out, you can't stay there anymore. You have to find another residence, please. Get out. So, many cases, that's the notion of religion. So therefore, religion is the wrong word. Dharma is the right word. That's the verse, the term that's used. One's occupational duty, Prabhupada defined it that way, and it's God-given. And the purpose of one's occupation, dharma and artha, dharma and varna and ashram, there we go. The purpose of varna and ashram is Vishnu is to be pleased. And the external part is what one does. The internal part is the purpose for what one does. And the internal purpose, if properly situated, is bhakti. And the purpose of bhakti is to connect with the absolute truth. The purpose of, the purpose of bhakti, or the purpose of dharma, is not sense gratification. One should not target sense gratification. Do dharma to get sense gratification. And if some fruit comes from one's performance of religious activity, it should never be employed. Shouldn't be the objective, and it shouldn't be employed in sense gratification when facility comes. When facility comes, if it's not sense gratification, then what is it? So the imperative mandate is the satisfaction of the Supreme. That's bhakti. And it's like playing with fire. Fire burns. You need fire to cook. You need fire to stay warm. You need fire for many purposes. And if you're not careful, you can burn the house down or burn oneself. So don't play with fire. You utilize it, but don't play with it. And while you're engaging with fire, you're taking precaution, just in case. Just in case. So there's not a calamity. And the calamity, in one sense, is the misuse of the human form of life and perpetuating material existence. That's a great misfortune, big mistake, and the consequences built into nature. It will continue the repetition of material existence by default, unless the opposite from the default is there, and then that's the mandate that's being presented in these verses. Life's desires, this isn't activities, it's just what's behind the activity, the internal. Life's desires should never be directed toward, so that's the internal, directed towards, that's one's duty or one's activities of life. Should never be directed toward sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Jiveta, self-preservation. So that's another fine line. What's self-preservation and what's in this other category? That begs the question, or leads to the question, of what's knowledge and renunciation. What's real renunciation? And real renunciation isn't just abnegation. Real renunciation is utilizing objects or creations of God, that which has come from God, in service of God. There's one photograph I like of Bhaktisiddhanta. He broke rules. According to those who are abnegators, he broke rules because he's a sannyasi, and sannyasis don't ride in conveyances. Sannyasis walk to this place, that place of pilgrimage, and the use of preambulatory feature of the human form is for purposes of higher consciousness. And the purpose of higher consciousness says you accept your renunciate, you accept conveyances, and you're indulging. So to make his point, he would sometimes go to an extreme. In this case, he's in Vrindavan, and he's riding in a car. Not only a car, but a convertible. And not only in a car that's a convertible, but wearing a coat. Not sewn, sannyasis are not supposed to wear sewn cloth. Not only sewn cloth, but a nice fancy coat. And and waving to people as he would drive through the streets of Vrindavan. Yukta Vairagya. So is that self-preservation? Well, it's a platform of teaching by example. Teaching that yes, you can use cars, and yes, you can fly in airplanes, and yes, you can cross the sea, and other things that are, no-nos for the renounced order of life. And, it was a yes instead of a no. So again, the fine line platform, the justification if in his case, at least his case of riding convertible, was teaching. Not everyone should go out now and get a convertible or get a car, but utilize in service to Krishna whatever it is that you have or receive. It may come by the course of Dharma. There's fruits of Dharma, and when the fruits of Dharma come, you don't just shrug your shoulder and say, "I guess this is what I'm supposed to do now. I have the opulence of performing Dharma, so enjoy it." It's the desire, it's the consciousness behind the activity that's being discussed here. The earlier verses emphasize bhakti, they emphasize hearing as an important preliminary part or early stage of bhakti, and the topics that shouldn't be heard and the topics that should be heard, and the activities that attract attention of hearing, topics unrelated to Vasudeva, or topics that are attracting that awareness and eagerness to hear topics in relation to Vasudeva. It's just spelling out, these verses are spelling out boundaries and directions. Move in this direction, don't go in that direction. It's not so many details, for example, this and that and the other. It's stating principles. Properly understood principles can then be applied, and one can live one's life in so many varieties of situations, approaching Krishna, approaching transcendence. Earlier there was discussion about occupation. In this purport there's discussion about marriage or male-female attraction, which exists, for practical reasons. The Creator made male-female attraction for practical reasons, not in one sense because he or she wanted to become enjoyers, so facility to become enjoyers is there, but the propagation of species is built into whatever different forms of life. The fish, the birds, the animals, the humans, any species of life. Propagation of species is part of the program. So it's built into material nature. So know what to do about it. Not become the enjoyer of it, but for civilized human life, there is a specific, is out of four, a specific ashram that's appropriate. And then appropriate with boundaries. Not for sense gratification. A license for sense gratification. No such license. For service to the Supreme Lord. Connecting a natural affinity Here's a little example. In all cultures of the world, music is present. It's just, different cultures have different cultural sounds. This, that, the other, kinds of music and singing and so forth. It's an exhibition of human culture, human society. So in ISKCON, it has its music. However, the musicality sometimes is the incentive for certain people or certain generations. And the glorification, the purpose behind the music is not appreciated. So it's not only kirtan, but it's music. And it's not about the holy name, the chanting of the holy name. It's about the musicality and the social interaction and the satisfaction through those two. So that's There's no detriment to those who have not centered themselves in the right purpose. But the benefit, as the question is being asked, the summation of all the teachings of the Vedas is to achieve the Supreme. And without that eagerness to hear the Supreme and focused on the purpose, then it by default, whatever ism there may be, or politics, or you name it, it's sense gratification. Or abnegation of the senses, the flip side. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessary engagements of the sense of, in sense gratification, because serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth, capital T, truth. This, researching again ties into the inquisitiveness, Brahma Jigyasa. Because if it's not Brahma Jigyasa, then one's going to be inquisitive in something else, like varieties of sense gratification, depending upon one's disposition and one's guna and karma. Like this example that half the purport is about politics. And a prevalent system, the popular vote prevalent system. And that's basically what politicians do. Pay promise sense gratification, they're voted in, and they're liked as long as they provide some sense gratification. It's unfortunate, but that's material society. And the Bhagavatam is meant for a spiritual revolution in the misguided society of human beings. I'm going to end with this, and then see if there's discussion. Immediately, Prabhupada's got the boxing gloves on, from the very first sentence. The completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards the fulfillment of desires and sense gratification. No, from the verse, one shouldn't do this, one should do this. The materialistic civilization, material civilization, is completely bewildered, and they're going for what they shouldn't be going for. And they're not going for what they should be going for. And they're bewildered. And they do things that bewildered people do. And it's not the purpose of speaking strongly, even stridently. It's not judgmentalism or vilification or something. It's concern that people are misdirected. They're blind, and they're being led by blind leaders, and they're falling in the ditch, and they can't take it. They have to do something, say something. So he's speaking strongly with that purpose in mind. People should be happy, should be properly directed to be happy. And with ignorance ruling, then there's not happiness. There's bewilderment. I want happiness, I'm getting the opposite. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. I want sukha, and I'm getting dukkha. Why? Because it's ignorance. And what's the antidote for ignorance? It's knowledge. So there's emphasis in knowledge, but knowledge minus the purpose behind the knowledge is another foolishness. It doesn't lead to God or God consciousness. It may lead to abnegation, denial of God. So therefore, it's right in the outset. Okay. "12 minutes before 8 o'clock.
Guru Maharaj, so this question is on knowledge and detachment, follow up on the question I asked. So on the material side, for those people who have that inclination to aspire for more knowledge, I have seen that they have some sense of natural detachment. They are like simple people. They don't like to show off. They just move around just seeking more material knowledge. I'm just wondering, it may look like apparently they may not be into sense gratification for themselves, but the results of their activities may lead to sense gratification in others.
But subtle sense gratification is theirs also. So let's go to the renunciate. That's they're leading a austere life, and they're interested in acquiring knowledge. So how's that sense gratification? That's the question. Prabhupada uses the phrase mental sense gratification. The enjoyment may not directly be through the gross senses, but there's subtle senses. And there's an enjoyment that such people experience that's not God-centered. It's not even self-centered. It's self in the sense of spirit soul. There's no satisfaction of the soul for such behavior, for such people. And therefore, what is it? It's a subtle sense gratification. But the subtle leads to the gross. And so surely in their life, there's gross sense gratification justified by the subtle sense gratification. So such persons, is dry wood better than wet wood? Without igniting the dry wood, it's not better. It's wet or dry. One of these topics of the absolute nature of transcendence. Here's two examples. The absolute nature of transcendence. I was just listening to Prabhupada this morning saying, when a Vaishnava is pure, he doesn't just see a tree, he sees Krishna. Now, what does that mean? Does he you look out you go down the street and see so many trees, you don't see a tree, you see Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. It's in relation to, it's Krishna's energy, Krishna is within the tree, he doesn't see the tree is Krishna. It's not pantheism. But it sees in relation to Krishna. So, that's one example. Here's there's many examples. Prabhupada explaining so many things. The standard of happiness. Anyway, there's so many examples. The position. Why does God create evil? A standard question people may ask. God is the source of everything. Is God the source of evil? And He's the source of everything. And for Him, there's no evil. There's no disharmony from God's perspective because everything is from Him. It's all good absolute. Wait a minute. When people do bad stuff, is it not bad. Bad stuff is not bad. So then comes the understanding Krishna's position. It's similar to this thing about knowledge, but knowledge without Krishna at the center is not real knowledge. It's another ignorance, and ignorance leads to sense gratification, covering the absolute truth. So, similar to the discussion yesterday about Pishachi, impersonalism. Sense gratification, okay, it's like a witch. But denying the existence of the Supreme is like a witch. It blocks bhakti. So I'm kind of babbling, but rather than just focusing on one thing at a time, but the position of the transcendental nature of Krishna, that everything is coming from him. Therefore, also one can say the knowledge of the Gyanis, that are the atheistic Gyanis, that's also knowledge coming from Krishna. So that the accumulation of that knowledge, that's the atheistic type, or non-spiritual type, or not Krishna-centered type, is not what real knowledge is. And it's ignorance. And when there's ignorance, you're going to have sense gratification, subtle and then gross, by default. Such persons have, the animal propensities. So they're going to eat, they're going to sleep, they're going to mate, they're going to defend, because it's the animal. So it stays on the material, on the sense gratification or selfish platform. So how do you get off the selfish platform? Go to the Krishna platform. Dogmatic. Even in the field of religion, sense gratification. Even in the position of impersonalism, sense gratification. It's denial of the material, but it's another kind. What's at the center? Being inquisitive, directed. Being inquisitive, directed by higher intelligence, or buddhi. Without buddhi, there's no bhakti. Buddhi. Prabhupada was just again hearing this morning. Buddhi yoga, bhakti yoga. There's a phrase, bhava yoga, that's used in the Ajamila story, bhava yoga. They're connected. They're in one sense, they're interchangeable terms. Without spiritual intelligence, it's going to be misdirected. Whatever ism, it's going to be misdirected. And the foundation is sense gratification. So, good people is good. Dry wood is good. Better than wet wood. Good. Ignite it. The purpose of the dry wood is fire. Go ahead.
I have one more question, but I can wait if anybody has.
Okay. Anyone else? You have.
Yeah. Guru Maharaj, so for individuals who grew up in, say, dysfunctional families, or did not have any kind of training in sense control, any of that. So I always find it perhaps challenging to provide guidance or guidelines on how to apply a verse like this. Like, would the recommendation be more around take a gradual approach, maybe fix some of the voids that were there, and then
Well, the approach depends upon the person and the circumstance. The principle, aside from the approach, the principle is that living entity that you gave this little description, their spirit soul. A very simple example: oil doesn't mix with water, and if there's a way to extract the oil from the water, it's not mixed with water. It doesn't mix. So that person you described, it's not them. It's misfortune of the material sense, but the extraction process is the bhakti process. So such a person can be engaged in bhakti. Now, such a person, I'm pardon me, but in the past 24 hours, some situation arose somewhere, and a fellow's a bit of a madman. Not just a dysfunctional family and but he's a little bit mad. But he doesn't think himself mad. He thinks himself a devotee. And he wants to give he wants a platform in a temple to teach his teachings on and he's a bit of a madman. He's a bit of a bully too. Like strong, big, and forceful. Now, how to engage such a person? How to extract the oil from the water? Which is what your question is, the approach. So it depends on the circumstance, but such a person, may have to be held at arm's length. Because they'll hurt themselves and hurt other people physically and otherwise also subtly. So, that's a more difficult situation to deal with. But specifically the situation that you're speaking of, dysfunctional family and this and that and the other, extend wholesomeness to such a person, provided the example is not necessarily embracing them and moving them into your house and tidying them up and stuff, but showing by example and treating them as a living entity that's Krishna's part and parcel, recognizing there's shortcomings and tendencies due to their upbringing. The contamination is such that we want to give compassion and kindness, but not necessarily embrace the lifestyle that person has embraced due to their upbringing and wholesomeness. Show wholesomeness and fan the spark, if there's a spark. Basics. Receiving books, hearing the message from the books, chanting the holy name, attending events where Krishna is worshipped, and so forth. Serving the devotees in some capacity. Something else? You like to speak? Okay, so you're next.
Maharaj, this question is on having the goal of healthy life and self-preservation.
Yeah.
Most of us are hitting like midlife and there is this huge awareness that we need to take care of our health, and so we can continue to serve. But it's a big challenge to maintain that goal, and I'm seeing that in myself and so many others, my friends. We all try, but the tendency to just go back because of the everyday grind of life, and we see our own parents struggle because of lack of health. So there is this red flag like right in front of us, and we are in that stage of life, but somehow it's very difficult to sustain that goal.
Well, attaining the goal is different than striving for the goal. Some people have health issues. In his example, from an unwholesome upbringing, they have other issues that are within their system. And so you're striving for is different than attaining. So many anecdotal examples of individuals who, in this lifetime, their struggle with their health, critical. And then when that one's over, then there's another one, then there's another 10. So it's striving, keeping the principle is the word that you use 6 times. You're striving for the principle. So it's a principle, whether I attain it or not. But the opposite is, as I'm striving for health, the purpose isn't health in itself, so I feel better. It's for the purpose of making the connection with Krishna strong, and so you want to pursue this a little bit more. Keep the focus on the simplicity of what's the purpose of health, anyways. You feel some pain, or you feel something.
No, Guru Maharaj, the question was more arising from the anticipation of what might come up as we age and preparing.
Things are going to deteriorate. What can you anticipate? Things will deteriorate, and it's going to be different for different people, in different times, in different ways, and different severities, and so how do you prepare for that? And stay fit. With persons that are capable. It's a gift from Krishna to them, that they have a sense of wellness, of health, and other purposes that are self-preservation purposes, and hear from them, and be guided. And you just keep that principle, because we don't like to suffer. So it doesn't seem too difficult to stay on the principle. The attainment is something else. And deterioration is going to be there for everybody. Aging is one of the things that deteriorates. Time destroys things. How do you anticipate stopping time? You won't. You stay principle-based, and the focus is Krishna should be served, and Krishna should be pleased. To capacity. And then if that focus is there, then the hardship and shortcoming and so forth and so on are more endurable. But the principle doesn't change. Fulfillment is different, but the principle doesn't change. To my capacity, let me serve. Either of you have something online?
I believe Rasraj Prabhu has a question. How can we practically discern the line between satisfying the senses for self-preservation and indulging in sense gratification, especially in a modern lifestyle where comfort and convenience are normalized?
It's simple. For those who are simple, it's simple. Who's at the center? That's the answer. You look at that question, you got the answer. You follow? So let's see, you see if Rasaraj wants to follow up, but that's generally speaking. There's a bit of a mix, and to the degree that there's a mix, then that degree is sense gratification, and then for each of us. This is a practical consideration. For each of us, there are different needs, creature needs. For some persons, they're very happy with, and they prefer simplicity. And then some persons, they're uncomfortable depending upon the degree of simplicity. Their comfort, and where they can carry on without their body and mind being disturbed, is a certain level of something. So that which is self-preservation is, a simple definition, is that which one can sustain. And I can move forward from this platform, and I don't need more than this and less than that. There's a degree of discomfort. And in principle, it's a good idea to move towards streamlining and simplifying as much as can be done. The essence, the self-preservation is the soul needs to be happy. The soul becomes happy by a exchange of loving dealing with Krishna. Then the soul becomes happy. Without that, the soul isn't happy. The happiness is within, or bhakti rasa, use that phrase. And without bhakti rasa, it's not. So then there's two with rasa, the object and the subject. The abode of love and the object of love. And to the degree that that's there, then that's a platform of self-preservation. And then back to the question, that if that's not there, to the degree that it's not there, then it's sense gratification. I'm at the center. Individual or collective, extended selfishness or narrow selfishness. It's the principle is simple. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki.